Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us and congratulations on being on time. We're going to give it a few more minutes just to see if people realize what time it is and they decide to join us early on. If not, we're gonna go ahead and get started. So I can see that a few people have also started signing in just now. So it is technically 3:01. So I mean we're still in Cyprus, despite the whole social distancing, being online thing. It is still Cyprus, so the heat is up there. I'm going to give it a few more minutes just to see if we can get those numbers coming in, and also from our panel. Here we go. And Michalis has joined us as well. Our team is all good and ready to go. Everything okay? Everyone comfy in their seats? Is our sound and video coming along okay? Is it all good? This is for the panelists, obviously.
Can you hear me? Yeah?
Yes, I can hear you perfectly, very clear. So I'm sure some of the participants are wondering how this may go ahead. So basically, this is for the participants. Your microphones and video will be on mute at all times. This is due to the number of participants we are expecting, and I can see the numbers of participants slowly but surely increasing. And the system, I don't think, would be able to support that many videos and microphones at the same time. So don't worry if your microphone isn't working, if your video isn't on, that's because you're meant to see only us and our presentations. So it also eliminates a lot of the distractions that are going on. So I'm gonna give it just one more minute and I'm gonna start at 3:03. So lucky number 3 will get going in a bit.
I do have a few seconds to say welcome to everybody. We hope to have a very good session.
Yanis, is this your first online webinar that you're part of?
Yes, this is a great day for me. It's a great day for me.
First for everything. Michalis, how about you? I'm sure you've done a few of these over the lockdown.
Yes, I must confess that it's not my first.
But you're not getting sick of this, right? I mean, you could continue doing this for a while.
It's so productive. You don't have to spend time to go around and to find your way to other areas. So I'm quite happy to have such a webinar.
I know Yannis was saying earlier that he thinks that this is going to catch on. The whole webinar thing is going to catch on because of the lack of time spent on transportation. And I think that also had a lot to do with the air quality getting a lot better as well. Less cars in the streets.
Yes.
So, okay, it's 3:04. So I'm going to go ahead and start off with our first introductory presentation. And I guess if people come in, then you'll just catch on, I'm sure. Nothing new about the introductions. You know how this starts off. So once again, welcome to everyone and those of you who've just joined in. Welcome to the introductory workshop of the Go Social project. And my name is Aycan Garip. I am the project coordinator for Go Social, and I will be facilitating the workshop over the next few days. So let's just go ahead and start off with some ground rules. So at the moment I have 2 laptops and 2 screens up and running, so I feel a bit like I'm piloting a plane. I've never been more focused and more in charge of more than one piece of electronic equipment at the same time. So welcome on board flight SE101, and that's my air hostess voice. Just to remind you that this workshop is being recorded, and we are going to be uploading this onto our website so that you can refer to it at a later date. We would like to make sure that you're on time for tomorrow and obviously the other days. It's not easy being connected to headphones and sitting in front of a screen for 3 hours, so we would like to get there on time and get everything done and make sure that you get the information and the knowledge that we hope to transfer to you. So please be on time and make sure that you have everything with you. Like if you're going to need a notebook, or you know you're going to have you're going to need some water, just make sure you have everything within your reach to reduce the amount of times you have to leave your computer. If you do at any point need to use the facilities, then we ask that you do so in the quickest manner possible, and then come back in, take your seat, and fasten your seat belts so that we have your full attention. Which brings us to our next point. We hope that even though a lot of people like to believe that they can multitask, we ask that you refrain from doing that for the workshop. It's going to go by really fast. As I said, it's online, and with the slightest distraction, you could lose track of like a few minutes of that, and you could miss something really important. We will also be having some interactive moments with polls and questions that we're going to ask you on screen. So it's really important that you're there and that we have your full attention. So please refrain from in-flight entertainment. In your drop-down menu on the side, you're going to see that you have handouts. So at the moment, you should see an agenda and day one handouts. There you can follow the flow of activities and presentations that's going to be happening throughout the entire workshop. So for all 4 days, that's where the plan is. And we're all going to try and stick to it, we promise. And then on day one handouts, you can find all the handouts from the presentations that are going to be happening today from day one. And when you come back tomorrow, you will have the handouts for day 2 and vice versa. So let me get back to my presentation. Right, so on the same sidebar, you're going to see that there's a question section. Now that's like it's a text box, and you can ask us questions from there, and they will go to my co-pilot, my technical coordinator, Dimitra, and any questions that you have throughout the presentations. Hi, Dimitra. She will get the questions. And then on the agenda, you will see a designated Q&A section. And we will then direct those questions to our experts, and they're going to do their best to answer them within the designated time. If, however, there isn't any time to answer the questions, or you get a question that you want to ask at a later time, then we will be doing a frequently asked questions document, which we will then also share with you and upload onto our website. And I know a lot of people have been asking me this question. Yes, there is going to be a certificate of participation, and we hope to do this in person, but if not, we will find a way of doing that as well and make sure you receive that. So what is Go Social? Now, if this is the first time you're joining one of our activities, I would like to talk a little bit about who we are and what we do and how we got started. So Go Social is a bicommunal project, and Kyriaki and Dimitra are part of our partners in the south, and they're from AKTI, Project and Research Center. I myself am from the Famagusta Wall City Association in the north, and Sherife, who you do not see on your screen, is from Makamer, which is a Famagusta Women's Center Association. She will be mentoring later when we get to group work, so you'll get a chance to meet her then. So our project is funded by the European Union, and we would like to take a moment to acknowledge that this project and this workshop would not be possible without the financing of the European Union. They have been supporting us on every step of the way, especially since the COVID-19 lockdown situation happened. We were supposed to have this workshop in person, but thanks to the European Union Program Support Group, they were quickly on board with us. They helped us manage a few glitches, and now we're here online. So thanks again to the European Union for making that happen and making sure that you're still up there and learning. See, like social distancing can be informative and it can be fun, and we're going to hope to make that happen. We started in 2018. We started off by doing a lot of awareness raising on what social entrepreneurship is and how in Cyprus we can use social entrepreneurship to support employability. Now, what that means is that as a project, our focus and our activities are more along the lines of introducing the concept of social entrepreneurship into the vocabulary of the community. Now, while we're looking at enlightening the entire island, the focus of the project is within the northern side of Cyprus, as well as the Turkish Cypriot community. However, we have a broad group of target audiences, as you're going to see below on the fourth bullet point. But one thing that I believe they have in common across these demographics is that, you know, generally they struggle to be employed by people. And the beauty of social entrepreneurship and what it offers is that you don't necessarily have to have had a degree to do it. You know, an unemployed woman who's never ever had a job in their life, but who has a certain set of very unique skills, still is able to go into the area of social entrepreneurship. And it's not just a matter of creating your own work or being your own boss, but at the same time, what social entrepreneurship can do is also provide jobs for a lot of other similar demographics. So that's what we mean by supporting employability. Today, as we said, is day one of our introductory workshop, and tomorrow will be the second day, which will conclude the introductory workshop, where we're going to be talking about some of the key and basic skills and knowledge that goes into being self-employed, introducing the concept of social entrepreneurship and its business model, as well as giving you some successful examples both locally and from some of the EU states. On the 27th, it's going to be our advanced workshop. And while we will be delving deeper into some of the concepts that we will be going over in the introductory workshop, you're also going to have the chance to listen to a panel of experts within the field of entrepreneurship in Cyprus. I'm sorry, there's an ice cream man going inside. I thought someone was listening to music. But what will happen in between that is that we're going to have the opportunity with you to work in groups and to actually have that practical experience of going through a business model. So you will either come up with an original idea or use an existing one, and within groups or individually, if you so prefer, we'll work with our mentors, which we will be assigning you later on. And you will get the opportunity to do this on the 23rd of May. So essentially, if you'd like to think about it, it's the bridging of the knowledge with the practice, and then sharing your ideas and your business model and getting feedback on it. So those are our, that's our, let's say, blueprint for the time being. And I talked a bit about the partnership of the Famagusta City Association, ACTI, and Makamer. And I'll just introduce them again. I'm Aycan. Hello. I will be facilitating the workshop. Kyriaki, if you want to send us a wave, and Dimitra, again, send us a wave. Kyriaki and Dimitra are both on our Go Social core team that make it happen. And Sherifa, as I said before, she'll be mentioned later on. Hello. But without further ado, I would like to come to the stars of our workshop, our experts, our social entrepreneurship experts, Dr. Michalis Loizides and Dr. Yannis Vesas. Hello.
Hello.
So I'm going to take some time to give a brief introduction. Both Michalis and Yannis, not only do they have the academic background, but they also have the practical experience over the years that they've been within the field of social entrepreneurship. Michalis is a chemical and environmental engineer, and Yannis has studied food and chemical engineering. But Michalis has, if I remember correctly, you were almost mentored by Yannis, correct, when it came to social entrepreneurship, which is interesting because Yannis was also, I believe, influenced by his father, who started sort of being a pioneer to him in the sense of social entrepreneurship in Cyprus. And we're very lucky to have both of the experts here with us. And we have no doubt that you're going to learn some excellent information, and hopefully we'll get to hear some interesting stories as well. Yannis, Michalis, is there anything you would like to say before we move on to the next section?
Just a refreshed hello to everybody.
And for my...
We'll have a lot of things to talk about, yes.
Okay.
And Michalis?
It's good that we have you with us. The idea here is exactly to be less theoretical and more practical. And we are relatively confident because we have tried this. I mean, the social entrepreneurship for us is something that we are practicing the last 10 years. We managed to create the social enterprises and operate them, so we can tell you exactly where the problem lied, where did we find challenges that we had to overcome, and so we can have this interaction in order to assist you to decide and proceed with your own social enterprise. It's a dream come true.
Thank you, Michalis. And we'll quickly move on. I'm just bearing in mind the time. I want to stick to that agenda time. So in a minute, you're going to see a poll popping up on your screens. Now, we've tried this a few times. Hopefully, it goes swimmingly this time. But if you do have problems and you're unable to select an answer, make sure that you are out of full screen mode. And you can do that by clicking that icon that I have circled in red and try again and see if that happens. It's not meant to be anything for serious statistical use, but the idea is that we would like to know who we're talking to, what you're feeling at the moment, or how much you know, so that we know who we basically have on the other side of the screen. So I'm just going to check and see if the poll has started, and the poll should be coming up right about now. Okay, so what are your expectations from this workshop? Now, again, you don't have to take a lot of time to think about this, just whatever is your instinct, your initial instinct, and whichever one you're drawn to, just give it a click. This should take no more than a minute or two. So it's just the idea of, have you heard of social entrepreneurship before? Have you maybe done some research on it yourself, or maybe you've attended one of our info days in the past, or due to your studies, perhaps you've come across the term social entrepreneurship, or maybe from our Facebook pages. So just go ahead and start clicking away, and we should be getting our answers shortly. Okay.
63 have voted, 70% have voted. I will give it one more second and then I will show the poll.
Thank you, Dimitra. Okay. And if you're not really sure, there's the excellent option of I'm really here out of curiosity. Okay. Okay, so we have our answers here. I'm gonna get a little closer to this so you can see better. Okay, so a lot of people seem to know about social entrepreneurship, but would like to know more. Well, we're definitely gonna do that. Okay, I can see that there's a good amount of people who don't know what it is, and hopefully we're gonna rectify that as well, and maybe we will then push you into the group of, you wanna do more. And essentially, okay, so everyone seems to be here for learning more. I have an idea. I'm sorry, it's just a little small on the screen. This is great. Okay, so everyone is here to learn for themselves and to take things further. Let's see if those who don't know about social entrepreneurship will be able to catch up. So I won't keep you waiting any longer then. A lot of eager people wanting to learn. So with that, I'm going to hand the floor, or the screen, I'm going to hand the screen over to Yannis, who's going to tell us a bit about self-employment, give us an overview of entrepreneurship and what it means to be self-employed and some of the challenges that you may be facing. So over to you, Yannis. Thank you.
Thank you, Aida. Thank you. Well, I'll be making an introduction to self-employment and entrepreneurship. This material is quite well researched all over the world, and quite a few conclusions have come out by observations of people who are actually dare to go into self-employment. Remember that people who employ themselves also wish to grow their enterprises, and they become employers of other people. Therefore, there is a multiplying effect, and helping those who are ready to start something, we're actually helping the whole of society, because they can find outlets for their ideas, for their self-preservation, but they don't dare to start first. Once they see others that have started and they have succeeded, they will maybe dare to implement some of their own ideas. So we'll go on. So this section will focus on an overview of entrepreneurship, what it means to be self-employed, and what are the challenges facing those persons who decide to follow this path in life. There is a modern definition of enterprise, which is all the essence. In the past, the word was used, I think, I agree, quite wrongly. Entrepreneurship is the ability to spot opportunities and to use them for the benefit of oneself and one's organization. So really what it means is that we need everybody, if possible, in any enterprise, in any organization, to exhibit entrepreneurship, to be able to spot opportunities. Either self-employed or employed by a company, one has to be entrepreneurial. And in the following minutes, you'll understand why. A definition which I prefer is that an entrepreneur is a person who has the financial responsibility for his work and decisions, enjoys the benefits and bears the damage. The steps towards entrepreneurship are, first of all, interest. You have to be interested. Reasoning, to be able to figure out why you want to do it. Indication of the intention, you have to show in practice that you intend to go with alone or to take advantage of an opportunity. Take the decision to do it, and of course, then implement it, make it work, put it into practice. There are some myths about entrepreneurship and some truths. One myth is that entrepreneurship means management. Well, entrepreneurship in fact means attitude, faith, courage, confidence. Quite a bit of difference. Entrepreneurship means taking risks. Well, no, entrepreneurship means lowering the risk because you think about every step and why you are doing it. Lack of investment capital is another myth. No, there are lack of good proposals for investment. If you have a good proposal, you could get assistance from others, you can get other people to partner with you. So it's a matter of the quality of the proposal, the idea you are proposing. Another myth is you need a great idea, revolutionary towards a new era, exciting, new technology. Not necessarily. An idea is great when it can create an opportunity. Opportunities have time, place, and philological restrictions. Philosophically should be here. That's when something is great. It must be implementable, and you will see in the next presentations. Another myth is the exclusivity of the inventor, that somebody who has a unique idea, it's absolutely his own, and he has exclusivity. But you will see that much more than the idea is needed for something to be made and maintained with financial success. You will see later on when we show the iceberg effect that the idea, in fact, is only the tip of the iceberg. Not only what shows above the water, it's just the tip of that that shows above the water. A lot more is below the water. It's invisible, and the entrepreneur has to be aware and ready to handle the difficulties. If you look at some past statistics, you'll see that countries, take the first three ones, Greece, Italy, Portugal, which faced a financial crisis sometime a few years ago, they showed large percentages of self-employment. People started up their own businesses because they needed to survive, and the pressure in these three, plus Spain, I forgot that, fourth country, it's because they are facing a financial crisis. Other countries with more organized economies, larger industries, did not face the problem in such severity. Therefore, fewer people in the same time chose to go to become self-employed. Now, another thing that needs to be addressed from the start is that large enterprises, in larger enterprises, there are a lot of people for the same role. In small enterprises, there are a lot of roles for the same person, and you need to stop a little and think about this, because the list of tasks that to be done in any business is not endless. Simple things. Imagine somebody has to open the door at the first of the day, has to switch, somebody to switch the lights at the end of the night and close down. These things happen to any size of enterprise. But in large enterprises, there are a lot of people to share out these jobs, these tasks. So for the same role, you may have a number of people. In the accounting department, perhaps, suppose, you have 20 clerks working the accounts. If one is away, the other 19 can do the job. But in a small enterprise, the accounting may be outsourced. It may be done by a part-time person or who is sharing his time with other roles. So even though the list of tasks is finite, it's affected by the number of people that have to carry out these tasks. And in a small business has no exception from the laws of the state. A small business still has to obey the same laws as the large business. And also the laws of the jungle. And the use of the word is not just to say by luck. Out there, the market is a jungle. There is a lot of competition. People will start to copy. If they like your idea, they will imitate. Therefore, those who feel stronger will try to hit and attack those who feel they believe are less strong. so that they don't let them grow. So one has to be alert. The problem with small business is the effort needed for the different roles to be played by at the same time. So because one person wears many hats, has to do several roles at the same time, basically this person is a superman, a superwoman. We need people with a lot of ability to be able to function in small businesses. And unfortunately, this is not happening very much in practice because the large enterprises with their strong financial background have the ability to attract good talent, and those who stayed behind by choice to do their own business, they are rare people. So we need to help them so that when they succeed, they can help others. These people need to have responsibility. It's understandable. They must show team skills, and you'll see why. They must have creativity. They must have confidence in what they do. They must have initiative. They don't wait to be told what to do. And ability to take and minimize risk. It takes a special kind of personality to be able to take the risk, recognize it, take it, and of course, minimize it. So how does one begin? Well, it's not a joke, but keep always with you handy pencil and paper. Ideas come at all times, anywhere, anytime. So have a way of recording them, either on a recorder or just a keyword on a piece of paper. And when you take that memo later on and elaborate it, it will all come back to you and start formulating the idea. Observe and listen carefully. Never take anything for granted. So wherever you go, people will talk, will socialize, will joke, will act. So observe their behavior and listen to what they are saying. Maybe they're talking about a problem, but that problem could be an opportunity for you. Increase the number of your contacts. Get out, meet people, young and old. Increase your intake of stimuli. And this is something we've tried, I've tried personally, over many, many years. I increase the amount of information that comes my way. I'm also chasing information, but I do not close the doors. Let things come to you, and if you like them, note them down. If you don't like them, discard them. But at least you didn't close the door. Nothing is bad without good. Every problem is a challenge or opportunity. A lot of things are being called a problem by others. Well, maybe it's for them, but somebody who has a good idea how to solve it, it's a challenge and an opportunity. Unless you hear about the problem, you don't get the idea, you don't get the opportunity. Exercise the mind with bold, unusual, and crazy thoughts. Yes, you can exercise your mind by asking yourself what seemingly questions that are, I wouldn't say silly, but somebody will not be able to understand. For example, in this room I'm sitting on, how many matchsticks can I stack in? Well, millions, billions. It will make me think to compare one size with the other and start coming up with ideas. A lot of things can be used like this to exercise the mind, to allow it to think outside the box, to allow it to dare, to be bold, to look at the unusual. And change your routine, accept new stimuli. If you are invited somewhere, well, just go. It might be an opportunity not only to meet other people and see other environments, you may see things that will stimulate the mind. So there are a lot of things that one can do in readiness for looking for challenges and opportunities to which you can apply entrepreneurship. In Greek, we have a popular saying about the fig, because it rhymes with lifting, raising the fig. In practice, in English, we'll translate that: if you see an opportunity, grab it before someone else does. If you imagine that there are other people like you looking for opportunities, they may know each other, they may not know, and most likely they don't know. So those who see the opportunity and grab it early will have an advantage. The first mover advantage, as it is used, that is called in our language. Another thing that you have to keep in mind is that the world around us, society around us, has created an occupational status scale through which it ranks people according to the profession they practice. The doctors and lawyers are high in the rank, whereas you see that cooks and cleaners and land workers have low status in the minds of people. Well, yes, society works in this strange way, but it's wrong, because we need all these skills. We need all these skills in the society we live. We need the doctors as much as we need land workers. We need the engineers as much as we need the truck drivers. Therefore, while you keep in mind this occupational status, don't let it be an obstacle. If a doctor has a hobby which can make him also a small business, why shouldn't he become an entrepreneurial doctor? Or if he's running his own medical practice, he's not working in a clinic or a hospital, he's having his own medical practice. Doesn't that need entrepreneurial skills? He's running a business, medical business. But a cleaner also can run a business. He needs similar skills to keep it running. Remember that you never get a second chance to make a first impression. Knowledge and academic qualifications are not the only criteria for getting a job. So you will see that there are other skills that need to be addressed, like the soft skills, the social skills, which are personality and character, teamwork, social behavior, appearance, languages, ability to take responsible positions. These are things that are needed. They are not usually taught at school, and it's not a matter of either having them or not having them. You can also cultivate these abilities. So candidates must not underestimate their future employer in wanting to get the person that will increase the value of his business. Okay, and academic skills are not the only tool. You will need also to look at those other skills, which of course are needed if you are starting also your own business. But how do you assess all these in the same frame, in the time frame of an interview? In an interview, how long does it take? Quarter of an hour, half an hour, 1 hour? How can you assess all these? I remember once I was told about an interview that a multinational company which was looking for a managing director, and guess where they had the interview? They spent a whole weekend at the golf course, and they interviewed him and his wife at the same time while socializing, because they knew that to be able to function as a managing director, he will do it most of the time outside of his office in social gatherings where his wife will be accompanying. So you will see that there are a lot of things that need to be taken into consideration by anyone who is either looking for a job in an existing enterprise or a new enterprise or starting his own. So an employer will want to see in a graduate initiative, liveliness, character, desire for advancement, sociable attitude. Now, a person who has these characteristics, don't you think is also a person that could start easily and successfully a business if he dare take the initiative, take the, shall I call it, risk, take the decision to apply these skills which are valuable to an employer, and an employer once employs such a person will want to keep him or keep her. He isn't going to employ them, select them and employ them and let them go. So this interaction between employer and employee is important, and any one of you who will start an enterprise, and a social enterprise, will be using other people as associates, as assistants. And these people must have qualities, and these people must be rewarded for these qualities, eventually maybe becoming part of the idea you created and the opportunity you are giving them. Most people I've met so far, they want to take before they can show what they can give. This is risky for them because they are putting themselves in a position where their motives are being questioned. The most stable structure in the universe is the diamond. It has 4 peaks and sides. The inventor has the technology. The investor has the money. The manager makes things happen. The market maker brings in the income, and all 3 or all 4 are needed. If they are not there, the structure will collapse. They have to be there, either in the same person, which is extremely, extremely rare, or they have to be brought in by skillful team working. The inventor, who usually does not understand management, economics, and marketing. The investor, who usually does not understand technology, marketing, and most probably management. The market maker, who usually does not understand new technology, economics, or management. And we need to work smart. To work hard is one thing, and to work effectively is another. To succeed, you need both. It doesn't take much to understand that to see what composes entrepreneurial knowledge is the technical part, which is the responsibility of somebody else to give it to you. You learn to be an engineer at the university. You learn to be a doctor at the medical school. You learn to be an accountant at the accounting school. But to put this into a business and run it as a business, you need to have business knowledge lessons, business knowledge that will give you all the rest of the information that you need to take your technical knowledge and apply it in a business. You have to learn how to learn, and this is the job of the schools, the colleges, and the universities. They cannot teach you everything known in the world. It's impossible. It's billions of bits of information, trillions. You need how to get to them, how to learn by yourself. And education can be formal, can be informal. Formal is in schools, informal is private study, learning, seminars like this one, conferences, and so on. And of course, there are three kinds of people: those that make things happen, those who watch things happen, and those that ask, what happened? It depends which one you want to be. The situations which trigger new ideas and innovation is unpredictable events, strange situations. Something is wrong here, it doesn't quite look right. What is it? Changes in technology, changes in a sector or industry, demographic changes. For example, we know that the population in general is getting older. We know that electronics is coming more and more into our lives. How can we take advantage of that? Changes in perception also. New knowledge is created every day. The evaluation of novel ideas can be nicely presented in a grid where the top left are ideas which are high as quality of the idea, but low in the quality of the proposer of the idea, so it needs some kind of protection. And diametrically down, we have low quality of idea, but high quality of proposal. So why lose that person? Why lose him? If the idea is not so good, he may come up with another one. So there are these four combinations that need a different approach. All ideas are welcome. Some are immediately good and implementable. Others may not be so, but prompt the mind to reform and expand them into a new idea. To implement any idea, there has to be a business plan. And we'll talk about business plans later on. The business plan, you describe who, when, where, how much, the threats, the weaknesses, the opportunities, the strengths of the whole approach, and this will give you a kind of a way to go forward. The you can put the limits of knowledge into three these areas. The limits of knowledge, so much you know, so much you can do. The limits of real obstacles, yes, there are sometimes real obstacles. The limits of imaginary obstacles, things that somebody believes they are there, but they're not, in fact, not there. And their intersection is a field containing the solution to a problem. So how does one enlarge this space? You enlarge it by trying to push out these limits. We said there are a lot of ideas. There are many good ideas. Very good ideas are few. One idea will make it to implementation. Ideas must be created, evaluated, researched, implemented. Raw ideas are many and possibly even free. Opportunities come from researched ideas and they are not free. From an idea to implementation, it's a long way. And here is the iceberg. The new idea is just that little piece out of the water. The rest, all the rest, is the work to reach the market. You don't produce a product just to put it in the store. You produce a product, produce a service, so that others can purchase it, can use it, and provide the income. But you have to overcome resistances, you have to find financing, you have to find marketing, sales, risk management, protection from imitators, management, the personnel, further research needed, customer service. All these are moving all the time. They're changing. So one has to be adaptable and ready to meet the challenges. So we must look at the value of training, and we must compare it with the cost of ignorance. How much does it cost me not to sit down and read, not to sit down and learn? It's not the cost of a seminar in Europe. It's the cost of not knowing what I would have learned by attending the seminar. And it needs effort, persistence, patience, practice. An idea is only as good as its execution. Okay, you all know the story of the mouse that wanted to learn where the cat was by tying a bell on the neck of the cat. Yeah, who's going to do it? So I finished my first presentation. I'll be happy to collect your questions, and I pass on the floor to Dimitri.
Hi. Hello, we're moving on to the Q&A session now. Jan, I would ask you to unmute your...
I'm unmuted. I'm just not talking because you were. Thank you, Yannis, for that presentation. So basically, people, participants listening, some of the things that Yannis said, I've come across these things over and over again. And it seems simple, but it's not. It's one of those things where it's not just a matter of knowing what to do, but actually doing it and implementing it. So sometimes some of the hardest things to do are the things you already know, and you go, oh, I know that, I can do that. But then when it comes to actually implementing things and doing things in a systematic and aware way, where you actually intentionally go ahead and do these things, it can get a little difficult. So thank you for the reminders again, Yannis. So any questions that you have at the moment, in your questions text box, you should be able to type in any questions that you have. And although we went a little, we're running 5 minutes sort of behind, but we're actually okay. We have time for a Q&A. And Yannis, thank you so much for keeping in time. Thank you. If this is your first time, you know, 2 more times and you'll be like the master of webinars, I'm sure. Working from the comfort of your own home. So any questions at all that you have, and please don't think that, you know, oh, this is a silly question. You know, I'll ask this later, or I'll just check it out later. You've got experts at your disposal right here and now. So have them coming. Don't be shy.
No questions so far. So
no questions so far. Yannis, you are not only an excellent webinar presenter, but you're also so clear with your explanations that everything got understood.
Thank you, Angel. Or as I say, nobody understood anything. That's why I have no questions.
Well, I doubt that's the case, but I guess we'll see how things will go when it comes to the business model.
Okay.
We shall find out. So with that in mind, we can go ahead and continue on to our next presentation. And no pressure, Kyriaki, but we might just get back onto our tracks. It's okay. It's okay to take your time at the beginning to get into the flow of things. And I hope you're all still with us there at your screens. So next we have Kyriaki from Akti, who will be, hi Kyriaki.
Good afternoon. I'm Kirliani Dimitriou. On behalf of ACTIV Project and Research Center, the non-for-profit organization participating in Go Social, I would like to welcome you in this webinar workshop. Once again, thank you for joining. Hope you are all with us. Thank you, Yanis, for the very informative, educational first part. Social entrepreneurship has two dimensions: is the social part, the social value, the social impact, and of course the entrepreneurship part. So we believe that was very important to start with an introduction to self-employment and entrepreneurship. I will be presenting the basics in social economy and social entrepreneurship. And my colleague, Dr. Mikhail Loizidis, will continue with circular economy, industrial symbiosis, and the challenges of social enterprises. The main targets of this short session we will have is to get familiar with social economy terminology and also introduce social entrepreneurship's main principles and characteristics as understood mainly in Europe. So, social economy. During the last decades, the globalization, the shrinking of the welfare system, the economic crisis, the austerity measures imposed by the countries geared interest in more inclusive economic systems, in alternative ways of doing business. It was an effort to cover the gap and challenges created by state shortcoming in dealing with the welfare issues, but also the environmental challenges. So new entrepreneurial initiatives developed, focusing on making social impact rather than financial profit. There are other ways of referring to social economy, like the third sector, the solidarity economy, the NGO sector, the non-for-profit economy. Not all these mean the same, they don't have the exact same meaning. Nevertheless, they fall under social economy, and it's rather difficult to agree on a specific definition of social economy. But we can agree that especially in Europe, it is clearly and widely accepted that social economy puts social objective over capital. It is an economy for the people and for the planet. So if we would like to mark the boundaries of social economy, we could say that it's covering the areas that the public sector cannot undertake due to the absence of financial means, and the private sector, the conventional, the private investment is not really interested to develop initiatives because of the very low profit margins. Consequently, social entrepreneurship was developed in areas that are not covered by the other two sectors. In Europe, social entrepreneurship initiatives were created in response to economic crisis, to refugee crisis, the rise of unemployment, social problems, environmental challenges, and recently within the COVID-19 pandemic. So, what is a social enterprise? It's an enterprise with a purpose. On the one hand, we have the social environmental impact, and on the other hand, the entrepreneurship, the commercial part. So a social enterprise is using commercial methods and is financially self-sustained. They are purpose-driven organizations that trade in the market to deliver social and environmental impact. Now, if I may allow, I will use this one, the laser pointer. So how things start. Usually there is a person or a group of people with passion for change, passion for improving things inside the community or in the town, in the country. People that they usually don't accept things how they are. They see the problems in the community. They see the challenges that we may think cannot be solved, but they see an opportunity to innovate, to find a solution. Many times this solution is very innovative. So they have a mission to provide positive impact in their society for the environment. Of course, they operate in a market like all the other enterprises. They need to be competitive and they need to make profit that again will be invest in their social enterprise. Now, in Europe and the world, there are many different kinds of social enterprises. Let's start with the ones that we don't consider as social enterprises. Charity organizations with fundraising and grant income are not considered social enterprises. Socially responsible business with a charitable spend, business that do good basically, are not social enterprises. And of course, commercial enterprises as we know them are not considered to be social enterprises. Social enterprises can be charity with on-mission contract income, community benefit enterprises, social purpose businesses. So by examining social enterprises around the world, we see some common characteristics. The social impact. A social enterprise is an operator in the social economy whose main objective is to have social impact rather than make a profit for their owners or shareholders. Many times we see innovation. It operates by providing goods and services for the market in an entrepreneurial and innovative fashion and uses its profits primarily to achieve social objectives. The other characteristic is the good governance. It is managed in an open and responsible manner, and in particular involves employees, consumers, stakeholders affected by its commercial activities. They have paid employees and many times volunteers that support their cause, their social mission. Private and public partnership. Many times the support of the public sector is very important in operating the social enterprise. They produce goods or provide services that promote social value, environmental protection, integration of people with disabilities in workforce, caring for the elders, community developments, all these are considered social values. They place less emphasis on profitability and focus on social efficiency. Now, the EU supports the development of social enterprise in Europe, values their contribution in dealing with social issues and environmental issues. So in 2011, they launched the Social Business Initiative, which actually provided a definition of what is a social enterprise, but also boosted the development of these enterprises in the European Union. So according to the definition included in this social business initiative, you will see the link below if you want to read it. Organizations must meet the following minimum a priori conditions. The organization must engage in economic activity, continuous activity of production and or exchange of goods and or services. It must pursue an explicit and primary social aim. A social aim is the one that benefits the society. It must have limits on distribution of profits and or assets. So the social aim comes over profit making. It must be independent from the state and other traditional profit organizations. It must have inclusive governance characterized by participatory, democratic decision-making processes. There are many organizations fulfilling this EU operational definition. We can find them all across Europe. In the same effort, European Union set some areas of work that social enterprises take initiative. First, the work integration of disadvantaged people. Such activities may include training and integration of people with disabilities and the unemployed. The second area is the personal social services, well-being, medical care, professional training, education, health services, childcare, elderly care, aid for disadvantaged people. The third is the local development of the disadvantaged areas. Social enterprises in remote rural areas, neighborhood development, cooperation with third countries, and the last sector includes recycling, environmental protection, sports, arts, culture, historical preservation, science, research, innovation, consumer protection, and so on. So these are the areas of work. You will see this slide coming up again and again in our workshop. So we will discuss more on this later. Sorry. Some useful links to start exploring social entrepreneurship. You can follow European Commission. They have a specific section called social enterprises. Here is the link. You can actually find information and many documents, policies of the European Commission related to this sector. The social business initiative that I mentioned before, and of course from our website called socialcy.eu. You can also find the videos, information, documents that you can read more. I will give the floor now to my colleague, Michalis Loizidis, to continue the presentation.
Okay, want to welcome you again. Just give me 1 minute to show the, so I think now we're okay. If I may continue from here, thank you very much, Kiregi. It was a great presentation. I believe that it showed exactly what is the framework of the social enterprise. Now, I want to go back and remind you a few very specific things. A few years ago, we used to say that sustainable development were actually 3 pillars. One pillar was the social, the economic, the environmental pillar, the 3 pillars of sustainable development. We are all nagging dear God, nobody was understood what exactly those 3 pillars were. So we really pushed the United Nations to proceed and specify what do they mean. And the United Nations came back with a very good idea of 17 goals, the Sustainable Development Goals. We all should bear in mind. All our life is actually around the accomplishment of those 17 goals. The United Nations, and I believe the same, that it says that if you manage in a society to make this happen, then inshallah, this will be a very good idea and we will all be very happy. So you see those goals, and so this is a very good idea for you to start with those ideas of what we mean by social and sustainable development. We all feel very an agony when we see poverty around us. No poverty, zero hunger, and all those 17 goals are really a good idea for new ideas. I will just give you an example. We are talking about no poverty, we are talking about zero hunger. And I will give you an example of zero hunger. I remember that I was working with hotels in Paphos, and I saw that almost 10% of the food that they were creating, they were actually cooking for each lunch and dinner, it was spoiled. And I said, why don't you recycle? I mean, give it the next day. And they said, no, it's prohibited. And why don't you give it to the poor people? Well, it's scientific sanitary reasons that we cannot give it to the poor people. And so I went to the authorities and I said, well, we have with Yanis, actually, it was with Yanis Fesadu, said, we have the technical background and knowledge to give you food coming from the hotels and taking it to the poor people that have no food without any problem. And actually I said, well, wow, I remember I could see the salmon a la Jardin de la Bablique, I don't know how they call it actually, this very specific food that they are creating with fresh cream and all this. And I could see from one hand all this food pouring outside the kitchen into the garbage, and the other people 10 meters downstairs, they were actually in hunger. So we created a social enterprise that could take them food from the hotel. Actually, it was waste for them to take it to the people that they were in hunger. So this was a social enterprise that could be could work anywhere, either in north or south. So that was an idea coming from those sustainable development goals. Now, if we go back to another area that is now very much appreciated in the European Union, and it's actually one of the main pillars of European policy, is the circular economy. And actually in Cyprus, we are so much behind this. We are lacking behind everything actually. We just burn on landfill. Burning or landfilling is actually below here. So European Union is saying to Cyprus that actually you belong in the area where we are trying to minimize systematic value leakage and negative externality. So actually Cyprus is working on what European Union is anticipating that it's considered, that it's considered negative externalities. We are just burning and landfilling. So what can we do? Whatever you can imagine, and I will start from the left, from where I can see it. So I remember that when I was working for my PhD, what I was doing actually is taking the waste, the juice from olive oil mills, okay, and I was extracting the polyphenols that it's preservatives for any kind of food. And actually, instead of putting in the conservas, in the packaging of food, whatever else that it's called E, epsilon, E, that it is actually considered unhealthy, we could change it to the usage of these polyphenols that they could be used with bringing benefit to the food and to the packaging. So one is this. The second, whatever organic food, we can take it to an anaerobic digestion, and then we can produce biogas. So we can have the cycle again of the biosphere taking back to CO2 if you burn the biogas, and then going back to the farming through the greenery and the chlorophyll, and then take it back to the manufacturing. So this is an amazing cycle that we can really optimize in Cyprus. The second thing is that the collection, the collection of the waste, okay, maintenance. Have you seen this in Cyprus? Unfortunately, the moment that we say, now I want to change my furniture, the second moment you see a truck outside, throwing everything in, going to the landfill, good night, bringing new, and nothing else. You could not even put it in a political way to say your wife, should we maintain our old furniture? I don't think that you will live long enough to take the answer. Anyway, then we go to the reuse, redistribution. So you take them, and instead of throwing them away, you can take it to a redistribution center. Just by naming this, the municipality of Nicosia told me, Michael, can we do a market, a flea market, that we will take all those wastes in inverted comma, because our furniture, of course, it's in operation, and put it, and maybe more poorer people could go there and pick them up and buy them. Why not? And we are thinking of promoting this idea into a social enterprise. Now, the thing is that we are so spoiled in Cyprus, and we should all admit that we cannot find the young people that will grab a truck, go to the houses, take the furniture, take it to the market, and resell them. So they all believe that just by having our cravats and our, our salary each month, every month, then we are more happy than doing something like that. Then we go to the remanufacturing, that it's another amazing idea. And now actually in our site, we have some people, a few people that believed in this idea. And now we have people that they take part of the waste furnitures, and they remanufacture, refurbish, and resell it back. And finally, at the end is the recycle. Many people tell me that I'm a bit in love with the European Union. Yes, I am. The culture and the mindset of the Cypriot is such that makes me really love the European Union. So the reason is that they will make us do that. And I'm telling you that because now they told us, if you don't do this scheme, if you don't put it into implementation by law, then we will come with 35 million as our first penalty. And if you insist, we put from 2014, a penalty of 3,500 euros a day for each day that we see that you don't implement this. So if you want, proceed. You are more than welcome. You will pay something like 100 million, and at the end you will have again to do this situation. So take advantage of these ideas and mature them, because this is another issue that the European Union says, I will fund the moment that I feel that your idea is mature. So maturity of idea means that I go in, I make my business plan, I find the way to tackle the obstacles and all this. Now, social circular economy combines those two concepts that I said before. to deliver benefits for the people and the environment while making profit. So don't let anyone tell you that social economy, social enterprises means that there are no profit. There's no profit. It could have tremendous amount of money, excess money. However, it's the way that you manage this profit that makes things different, differentiate the usual enterprises from the social enterprises. Now, if I may proceed with the examples, one of the examples you can see it here. It comes from Ireland. I just took one from up abroad and one from Cyprus. So they exactly did what I said before, that they're connecting people with ideas and resources, so they support. It's an enterprise actually who takes the unwanted material. You give them a call. Please come to my house. I have this furniture. I have this TV that I want to change. It's an old TV. So they come from your house, take the products, and all profits from reselling them it goes back to the society through this social enterprise. So you can see the links that you can check it out. And then is one new, brand new. It didn't happen yet. And it's a social, it's a carpenter association, 600 carpenters in Cyprus. The authorities went and they said, okay, you don't want to recycle, you want just to throw your garbages, wood garbages, you don't have any problem. 100 euros per ton. Now the carpenters sat down and they said, well, we have 10,000 tons multiplied by 100. That means that just for throwing the garbages, we will have to give 1 million euros a year, while with this €1,000 can make with this 1 million euros, we can make form an alliance, create a social enterprise, give new give places to unemployed youth, and provide capacity building and skills to them. And so with this 1 million euros, instead of throwing them to the garbage, we can make new products, raw materials, and actually we can make the cycle and recreate from A quality material, we can make a B quality material, and we can reuse it in our everyday life, in our everyday work. And let's go to the third part that I find it very important, and it is the third part, which is the industrial symbiosis. So you can use this idea, and I will give you an example that happened to Cyprus. Instead of theoretically transferring this, we had a donkey farm that they had piles of manure and they didn't know what to do with them. And we had the Cyherbia, that is a botanical park, who needed. It's an innovative Cyherbia. It's also bio products, so they don't want any kind of fertilizers and things like that. So they take the manure from donkeys and they put it there, and so all the herbs that the donkey farm needs, both for the quality of milk of their donkeys, as well as the quality of the milk that they are giving, they are selling actually, and all the other products like soaps and other products, creams, they are using the herbs from Cyherbia. So actually they have a cycle of 250,000 euros, and actually in the middle there's only a few young unemployed people that they are doing the whole cycle happen, and it's amazing. It's one of the symbiotical social enterprises that are really operating at this moment in Cyprus. So if I continue, I'm not saying that the social enterprise is a panacea. It's something that is so easy, and if it was easy, everybody would have done it. I'm just saying that it's something that's happening. The Tiganogynisi that we are working for the last 5 years is now bringing with the used oil from houses that goes to the in favor of the schools. So the children are taking their used cooking oil to the school. We are taking, ACTI is taking this this used oil, is selling it, and out of this those money, almost all of them goes back to the schools for implementing the sustainable school idea. That means that they are doing amazing things in their schoolyard and in their classrooms, using those money to demonstrate that many good things has happened. Recycle of plastic, recycle of water, gray water, dark water, whatever you can imagine. Technologies are now pouring into the schools of South Cyprus based on the money that are given through this very interesting way. So coming back, I'm just saying, this is the conclusion. Main challenges of a social enterprise: poor understanding of the concept of social enterprise. You go, you say your idea, you want people to come pour in and to assist and to back you up, the mayor, the authorities, and then they tell you, oh, this is something, and they don't understand. That's why they are using, oh, who is caring about this? Low profit margin, that's true, that's true. You are not taking money to make huge profit. You usually use this profit to take it back to the society. The absence of a common mechanism for measuring impact. Well, if I say I make a profit, they will tell me, you spent $500,000 and you have a profit of $500,000. So it's very easy to usual enterprises to show and measure the impact and the outcome of their effort. But how do you measure the impact to the poor people? How do you measure the impact to the society? This is something that all Europe is now trying to make tools to measure impact. We are very close to have tools to measure, but not at this moment yet. So this absence of common mechanism is something that we have to take into consideration. The mission drift. Oh, this is an amazing thing. When we started having too much oil, 200 tons per year, 200,000 liters, then many people in the market came and they said, well, why do you have to give it back to the schools? Minimize the impact to the schools and come to us. We can make a new company and we can make real money. We're talking about millions. So many people can say, okay, I gave as much as I could, now I will drift into real business. And this is something that you have to keep in your mind. What was the first thing that you had? What was your enthusiasm about giving, about this challenge that you want to overcome, about this gap that the society had? So the mission drift is one of the major issues that at the end comes as an obstacle to the social enterprises, and actually is the reason that usually social enterprises end up having bad name. And lack of supporting legislative framework and funding opportunities. Again, European Union is coming with a European legislation that will make the European countries make them enforce the new legislative piece of funding opportunities. So it will make the banks give a percentage of the loans for the social enterprises. And also, if you end up with a product, a secondary product, like the one that I told you with the carpenters, then the secondary product will have bonus in each new market and based on the authorities. So it will give, they will give them the positive, let's say, point to any kind of terms or references in any new how do you say, new project. So if I proceed, I want to thank everybody for listening, and please put your questions. We will, from what I understand, we will discuss the answers. We will give you the answers at the end of this 3 hours package of lectures. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Michalis. And just to restate that, as you get questions, because it must be new, at least to some who are participating at the moment. So if you do have a question, just type it in to your question box on the side panel, and we will get to them. And like we said, if we don't get to them today, we will certainly be getting to them at a later date. Don't keep it to yourselves, people, because you never know who else might be thinking the same thing of, oh, I'm so happy that someone asked that. And, you know, if you don't, then no one gets to find out what the answer is. So we're going to quickly move on to another poll. And this time we want to find out, once again, this is the part where you get to interact with the poll, and we're going to need your input on this. And the poll should be coming up shortly now. So we want to find out what your field of work is. And if you're not in the work field at the moment, just basically tell us what your area of interest would be. You heard in Kyriaki's example in her presentation the 4 different types of work areas for social enterprises. So you have your work integration, personal social services, local development of disadvantaged areas, and then other. You may have heard, or you have heard, I'm hoping, Michalis talking about how things often not just get recycled, but they get reused, and they get included into this equation of industrial symbiosis before it gets discarded completely. So other could be things involving similar practices that have to do with reusing and keeping resources within that industrial equation at the same time. Again, we're not asking for you to spend hours and hours thinking about this. Just what's your initial intuitive, which one draws you, I guess? Which one speaks to you? Which one can you see yourself either starting a social enterprise in, or maybe contributing or discussing an idea that goes towards one of these fields of a social enterprise? So we'll give that a few more seconds. I'm just looking to see what our progress, how our progress is going. Okay, so just a few more clicks that we're waiting for. And if you happen to have left your computer and now you're back, we're doing a poll on just to find out about what your field of work is, or maybe it could be your field of study. It might be that you're studying engineering or accounting or business. And it's just that some of the ways that work is being done and jobs are being done at the moment doesn't necessarily speak to you, and you're looking to do something that is more socially and environmentally constructive. So I believe we have our results. Okay, so a lot of it, hey, there's nothing wrong with falling into the other category. So a lot of things happening there. We've got some work integration. That's great. Local development of disadvantaged areas. Okay, so we have interest across the board, with more of the focus being on the others. So this is going to help us when we're later on categorizing those who would want to stay on for Saturday and work in groups to devise the social enterprise idea. So we will keep tabs of who answered what. And it's not like an entirely definitive thing, but we will initially group you together so that you could get to talk about some of these ideas. Back at the beginning, Yannis talked about, exclusivity with certain ideas or grand ideas, but it's better to discuss things with like-minded people just to take it a little further and to improve upon the implementation of an idea. Okay, so quickly moving on to our presentations. We're now going back to Yannis, and we're going to find out about the characteristics of a successful entrepreneur within the context of social entrepreneurship. So hello, Yannis, once again. I lend the screen to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm glad to be back. We can proceed now with the characteristics of a successful entrepreneur, and of course, with the focus on the social entrepreneur. And you'll see that there isn't very much difference. So we'll focus on identifying the qualities, the knowledge and skills necessary to become a successful entrepreneur. But if you add the word social, nothing much changes. It's just that you need to develop this special approach within the context of social entrepreneurship. So, as we mentioned in the previous presentation, what we are looking for in a potential entrepreneur is initiative, liveliness, character, desire for advancement, and sociable attitude. Of course, now within the context of applying it to social enterprise. The surest way of forecasting the future is to create it. It sounds like a cliche, of course, it is a cliche, but if you create put your dream into practice, essentially you are forecasting a future. You are putting your own dream into operation. We mentioned the previous presentation the definition of entrepreneurship, the modern definition, which is the ability to spot opportunities and to use them for the benefit of oneself or one's organization. So we need entrepreneurship and the attitude of entrepreneurship into everybody. The importance, what is the importance? The importance of entrepreneurship is that it contributes to the creation of jobs and to development. Entrepreneurship is a basic element of competitiveness. Entrepreneurship releases the potential in a person. And you can imagine in bringing to your mind the large enterprises, multinationals, you can small enterprises where you can identify the entrepreneurship applied by persons who will instill it into their groups, and the organization as a whole becomes entrepreneurial. Believe it or not, and I'm not ashamed to say that, even criminals show entrepreneurship. They have to, in their own illegal line of business, they have to create opportunities for themselves. Strange to say, but it's true. So creativity is the ability to create. How do we create? To take the visions, the dreams, and the hopes and turn them into reality. The process of creation concerns the transfer of ideas, plans, visions, dreams from the internal world of a person to the external world where the person and others experience life, and pass the experience through the senses. Now, if you imagine for a moment your own self, you get an idea. That idea is in your own head. You have to share it with someone externally. You have to talk to somebody. It could be your family, it could be your friends, it could be your wife, husband. It has to come out of your own head and then be able to be experienced through the senses. Senses, what are the senses? 5 senses. The person and others, of course, can see, can touch, can smell, taste, hear the creation. Suppose you develop a new dish, you cook something, you smell it, you taste it, okay? You create something that can be touched, you create a piece of music, can be heard. The creation has to be felt through the senses. And when creations can be seen, it is useless to talk. It's an ancient Greek saying. When things can be seen, it's useless to talk. So what are the general observations about entrepreneurship? Studies have shown that Europe suffers from an entrepreneurship gap by comparison to the USA. The USA has long been known as the land of opportunity because it utilized entrepreneurship to its greatest extent. In Europe, it's not so. There is an entrepreneurship gap. Entrepreneurial attitudes and skills can be nurtured in young persons, starting even from school. If those of you who have contact with small children in kindergarten, preschool, you see that they play games in the school, pretending they're a policeman, pretending they're a doctor, pretending they're a cook, and this pretending creates the entrepreneurial skill into the children. But unfortunately, later on, we work to lose it, and it's unfortunate. In most European countries, there is political commitment for the teaching of entrepreneurship. We started something like that some time ago in Cyprus, but it was killed. Believe it or not, it was killed by political parties who couldn't understand that even their own parties need entrepreneurship. The initiative for its promotion lacking coherence and are not widely spread. The exchange of best practices and performance indicators can improve the situation. In other words, looking at others, looking what others do, and try and incorporate them into our own society. We can learn a lot by observing others. As I said in my first presentation, you need to allow information to come to you, not to block information. I remember many years ago when the political regime changed in Russia, and I was taken there to give some lectures on entrepreneurship. I was taken to an institution where some 300, 400 employees, they are translators, were translating useful, in their opinion, useful technologies into Russian to pass them on to Russian enterprises. And I asked, what are you doing? What are you doing? You are choosing what, in your opinion, is useful to millions of your compatriots who might get different ideas. And of course, the answer, it was a political one, it was a previous one. They didn't teach their people English or European languages because they didn't want to become victims of propaganda and foreign radio and television. So if the audience could not understand the language, they would not be listening to any unauthorized by the regime broadcasts. So we have to bring down the barriers, allow free communication of people so that ideas can be exchanged freely. So the entrepreneur must have perseverance, endless curiosity, and unbreakable optimism. This has been said by Steph Wertheimer, an entrepreneur, and it's true, really it's true. I've lived through it. You have to persevere. You have to have endless curiosity. Why is this? Why is that? Why so and not otherwise? And of course, optimism that you can change things. If you want to be an entrepreneur, you need to have the right personality and the right attitude. Owning a business isn't for everyone. There are many people who have started businesses. They barely manage to do the first or second birthday of the business. And this is actually a measure of success. Once they start, it's not, it's a first big step, but it's not the only one. You have to overcome all those obstacles in the iceberg that allow something to remain in place and work for the future. The stress and hard work that come with it make many people unwilling to dive in. They're afraid. They're afraid of the difficulties, so they choose not to do it. They're less daring. That is why those who dare are valuable. Those who dare are valuable. Few of them will make it, but those who make it will help many scores, many dozens of other people to find employment. It takes a special kind of person to be an entrepreneur, to come up with an idea and put the idea into action. But not all ideas work out. In fact, statistics show that 50% of small businesses fail within the first 4 years. Why? Because those who start them up cannot bring together all the skills that are necessary to address all those ever-moving situations and ever-changing situations in the jungle, as I mentioned in the first presentation. Entrepreneurs don't see the risk, they see the reward. Entrepreneurs know how to put the time and effort to make their dream a reality. So this word risk keeps coming up, but we have to look at it from the point of view of the modern definition and the myths, so that the entrepreneur finds ways of minimizing the risk. He doesn't start in order to fail, he starts in order to succeed, and he has to minimize risks to succeed. He must make more right things than wrong things, more correct decisions than wrong decisions. We recognize that wrong things will be done, wrong decisions will be taken, but as long as there are fewer than the good ones, then the enterprise will survive. To be an entrepreneur, one needs to have the right personality and the right attitude, as I mentioned many times. Has to be creative. And here in this slide, we put the word social in front of entrepreneurs. This slide is more or less a standard slide when you talk about entrepreneurship and entrepreneurs. But in our situation, we are focusing on social entrepreneurship. So I left the word social in the title, and those phrases that are underlined have been added so that they fall into context with our project. Social and environmental problems. We have to apply these entrepreneurship skills and characteristics to social and environmental problems, as very well Kyriaki and Michalis have explained about social entrepreneurship. It's just that the management of the income which is being made has to be done in a very special way. And there are ways of doing it. So entrepreneurship starts with an idea. To be successful, one needs to always be thinking of new ideas and better ways of doing things. Just because something is being done by somebody, it doesn't mean it cannot be done better or differently. Entrepreneurs are not satisfied with the status quo. They are questioning everything. They think outside the box and look for opportunities to come up with new solutions. And I add to social and environmental problems, because this is the focus of our Go Social project. Entrepreneurs love what they do and are extremely dedicated to the business they create. And of course, now the social issue they address. They are addressing a problem which is faced by disadvantaged groups, by special situations, by disadvantaged areas. So they have to apply these skills to these issues. To be successful, one must be confident in oneself and one's business and be proactive with what one does and how to do it. So this is about passion. Motivated because of their passion and their idea. Entrepreneurs are willing to put in the long hours and hard work required to launch and run a successful new business that creates, again, the social and environmental values that we're looking for. And it does take long and hard hours. I dare say one must throw away the clock, because there are a lot of issues to be addressed by one person or a small group of persons around him. Therefore, because they are their own boss, which means nobody's telling them what to do and how to do things. They are driven by their social mission and stay focused on it in our particular case. They are optimistic. There is not such thing as can't do it. Don't tell me it cannot be done. Tell me how you will do it, how to bring the result. And entrepreneurs always look on the right side and are constant dreamers. They look at how they can do things better and make the world a better place. They never dwell on the past or the negative. Instead, they focus on moving forward and moving up. When they are confronted with challenges, entrepreneurs don't see them as problems. They see them as opportunities. And in our case, opportunities to create social values. And there are many, many issues that need the attention, the special attention in these social values, because traditionally, the economies of countries, and ours is no exception, we are looking for monetary profit. Yes, there can be monetary profit in a social enterprise. It's just that has to be handled in a different manner according to the European issues behind it. It's future-oriented, one of the characteristics of the entrepreneur. Because entrepreneurs are focused on moving forward, they are always looking toward the future. Entrepreneurs are very goal-oriented and know exactly what they want. They set their goals, and everything they do is aimed at achieving these goals. Yes, I've lived through it. I paid the price of my failures. I earned also the benefits of my not so bad failures. Not much to show for it at the moment, but we did try. To be persuasive. Why do you have to be persuasive? You have to be persuasive because you need help. You need to persuade others to work with you. You have to persuade others to give you money. You have to persuade others to support and invest time and money in your idea. So when it comes to this persuasiveness, you have to transmit this notion to people who are not so familiar with the idea of social entrepreneurship and the social cause. And Michalis has mentioned it, that this risk of the shift in the scope, that when people see money coming in, they think, but why don't we do this for ourselves? Well, yes, you can do it for yourself to a certain extent, but that was the idea of the Go Social. Our focus here is to go for the social causes and the benefit of disadvantaged groups. Have to be flexible. I don't need to waste too much time on this. We need to be, there's number missing here, 8. Yes, flexible. I forget the title which is missing. Then we have to be adventurous, and we have to be decisive. So what is an enterprise? Who is the entrepreneur? Can we create the entrepreneur through education? My own practical definition, as I said earlier, is a person who has the financial responsibility for her decisions and work. She enjoys the benefits and bears the damages. So we need to show interest, show thorough thinking, expression of intention, decision, and of course, implement, get things done. I will thank you for bearing through my presentation, and I'll be happy to answer the questions either now or later, or when I'm instructed to do so. Bye-bye.
Yes, thank you, Yannis. And if need be, we will do the corrections on the presentation at the side, and then we can go ahead and do the missing parts as well. If you want to continue writing questions, you can go ahead and do that. We will be answering questions at the very end. We've got lots of time at the end. Without any delay, we're going to go on to Kyriaki's next presentation on the legal framework for social enterprises in the EU and Cyprus. Kyriaki, you have the screen.
Yes, thank you. I'm here again. Okay, can you hear me, and can you?
Yes, we can.
See my screen? Thank you very much. So proceeding with the less exciting topic, the legal framework for social enterprises in the EU and Cyprus. Still important session to understand how we regulate the operation of these enterprises business. According to the study, a European statute for social and solidarity-based enterprise that was run by Directorate General for Internal Policies, a comparative analysis of existing legislation on social entrepreneurship in the member states shows that we can identify a European common core in the regulation of social enterprises. What is this common core? We have a common framework in the regulation. What is this? The social enterprise is a legal entity established under private law and is independent of the state. It has an exclusive or at least prevalent purpose of community or general interest. It is subject to constraints on profit distribution, conducts a socially useful activity including work integration of disadvantaged people or workers as determined by law. It is subject to specific governance requirements, including the obligation to issue a social report. A social report basically describing the activities of the enterprise, to involve various stakeholders in the management of the enterprise and provide fair and equitable treatment of its workers. When the social enterprise is established as a company, it is usually subject to additional governance requirements. On the other hand, the social enterprises is, in case they are in cooperative form, is considered an entity with strong identity as social enterprise. The social enterprise is subject to public control in order to ensure compliance with the legal requirements. What are the legal forms adopted in the different countries by social enterprises? They adopt the non-profit structures, so NGOs, non-governmental organizations, foundations, associations are taking social entrepreneurship initiatives. They don't distribute the profit, it goes back to the purpose of the initiative, and they trade for a social purpose. They can be cooperatives serving general or collective interests. Democratic control by members, they have a social purpose. They can be for-profit enterprises with explicit and primary social aim. They are social enterprise legal forms. They have the legal form of social enterprise, if it's better this way. They are not cooperative social responsibilities. As we talked before, they are not business that they do good, basically. They don't have corporate social responsibility. Companies are not included in social as social enterprises. So within this study, they found that 16 European countries have some form of legislation that recognizes and regulates social enterprise. We can find new forms of social enterprises by adapting or tailoring existing legal forms to include the specific features of the social enterprise. For example, in France, in Greece, in Italy, in Poland, by adapting what they have as a cooperative legal form. In other countries, we have creation of a social enterprise legal qualification or status. So different types of organizations can obtain the legal status. The status is the social enterprise, provided that they comply with predefined criteria. For example, in Belgium, in Denmark, in Slovakia. In other countries, we have creation of de facto social enterprises. So we have recognition of specific types of non-profit organizations that allow for the conduct of economic activity. We are towards an EU directive that will regulate the registration, the operation of social enterprises in the European Union. Within this directive, we may end up with a particular qualification status, a European social enterprise status, and also a European social enterprise label or mark. At the moment, social enterprise marks and certification schemes can be found in few EU countries like Finland, Germany, Poland, Czech Republic. As talking now as a consumer, I think these are important steps towards the development of the social entrepreneurship sector. I would like to see a label or a mark that shows that this product or this service is doing actually good for the society, is environmental friendly, it helps with climate change, and so on. So I think we need to push for the creation of this framework, of this status of the European social enterprise that will allow actually the social enterprises to be developed and flourish and have actually also access to funding and so on. So what is happening now in Cyprus? In January 2018, Cyprus developed the action plan for the development of the social enterprise ecosystem. It involves measures, incentives for the operation, expansion of social enterprises. Specifically, the action plans provides for social grants, social enterprises loans, access to infrastructure and know-how, access to public procurement to award exclusive contracts in the case of social enterprise, in the case that social enterprise is an integration enterprise. Remember, the first pillar, the first area of social enterprise is work integration. At the same time, a bill was prepared for the creation of a registry for the creation and preservation of social enterprises. The bill identifies two types of social enterprises: the general scope social enterprise and the work integration social enterprise. In Europe, is usually seen as WISE enterprises. So in the general scope enterprises that fall all the other areas we talked before, like the healthcare, elderly, childcare, disadvantaged areas, environment, and so on, are the general scope social enterprises. So in the bill, it's mentioned that minimum 70% of profits invested to promote its original social mission. So 70% of the profits should go back on the social aim. And under type 2, work integration social enterprise, minimum 40% of employees should be from vulnerable groups. Vulnerable groups, again, is defined each time, will be defined, because now it's not included. What are the vulnerable groups? It can be people with disabilities, long-term unemployed, drug addicts, and so on. Again, it is mentioned that, as we saw before, the social enterprise should be managed in a transparent way within an inclusive and democratic framework, with the participation of its members, employees, customers, and not to be a public entity. Once registered as a social enterprise, the social enterprise is obliged to submit an annual report, including the progress made towards fulfilling its social purpose. So again, the issue, the challenge of how you show the social impact will be raised during this report. So these few things, I believe this bill was supposed to proceed through Parliament and be in place 1 year ago, but it's still under discussion. The truth is, there are many things that can change in the sense of becoming more detailed, and also include more incentives for people to be registered to under social enterprises to actually convince them to become a registered social enterprise. I believe there is also room, and we should increase visibility and also the benefits of social entrepreneurship in the northern part, where we have a strong civil society and a tradition in active NGOs. Our project, part of the goal of our project is pushing towards creating a legal framework for for the development of social enterprises. In the whole island, there are organizations, NGOs, acting as social enterprises, and they fulfill the criteria we saw in the previous presentation and in this presentation, and making the legal environment friendlier, making a legal environment that is friendly to enterprise would allow them to grow. This is the end of the presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kyriaki, so much for the legal framework or the lack thereof it in the northern part as well. And hopefully through this sort of awareness raising and creating more of a demand for people to want to register and initiate social enterprises, as you said, people will be able to get more breaks as social enterprises because of the fact that you're not just it's not just a regular enterprise, but you're actually doing some form of environmental, social, or cultural good, which is not something that every enterprise is able to say, unfortunately. But the idea is that we create more of this sort of an understanding at the end of the day. So I'm going to quickly move in to give you some examples of social enterprises from around the European Union. And you will notice that there are going to be some points that I'm going to make with some of them. However, these are they're basically an example for each of the 4 types of areas of social enterprises. So we're going to have one from work integration, one from disadvantaged areas, the development and progression of disadvantaged areas, and then also personal social services. And then when we get to the other, we'll discuss that when we get to it. So let's begin in France. So this is what seems to be like a regular bakery. It's called Drôle de Pain, and it means something like jolly bread, if my French doesn't fail me. But it's not just a bakery. What they do is that they hire people who have either struggled to find work within their region or who are not skilled enough to find work. So again, going back to when we were talking about our target audiences, women who've never held a job before in their lives, or immigrants who have come to the European Union with hopes to make a better life for themselves or their families as well. And they basically provide, they train people to become bakers, to bake bread, to make patisserie. Patisseries, they'll teach them, I guess, it says soup at the back on the menu. So I guess they also do different things. And the idea is that not only are they providing just jobs, they're actually training people in, they're also training people in these very specific skills in a specific way. So that later on they can actually, if they decide to move on, then they're no longer the unskilled people that they used to be, and they're able to find work a lot easier. Now, one of the things that I like about the presentation, like I said, this workshop was supposed to take place pre-COVID-19 lockdown situation. So when I found them and I found their website, and then I went back to it to modify some of the things and just to check and see whether they were still up there doing their thing. I found out that they did a bread delivery service during lockdown. And they were also able to help communicate with lesser fortunate families, because they had all these different cultures, people from these different cultures, and who had the language skills to communicate. So they sort of became a lot more versatile in how they were not just providing food and sustenance, but also allowing people to communicate and helping them out in that way. And also being a friendly face to these families and people as well. So that is one example of a social enterprise that is within the field of work integration. Now, it's not just about the work integration with this one, but they also make sure that they purchase their ingredients from local and in-season farmers. So they're cutting down on their carbon footprint, and they're also supporting local businesses. So it's not just, oh, we've done the work integration thing, you know, we've gotten our stamp, we're doing the bare minimum of what we need to do. No, you can always go above and beyond what the minimum requirement is with a social enterprise. And that just shows that they have a lot of heart in what they're doing. Our second example is from Sweden. And I'm not very familiar with the Swedish language, but I believe from the interviews I've watched, it is Ung Omsorg, and it means Young Care Sweden. So this was, believe it or not, started by two friends at the age of 19 some years back, when they discovered that there's a lot of old people out there who don't have any social company. You know, they're lonely, or their families live far away, or some of them were in care homes. So the idea behind this was not to provide primary care, because that's a very specialist and very difficult thing that goes through excruciating and long hours of training to be able to know how to do things right. But basically for social interactions. And they targeted this as like a first job for young people, or people who were maybe looking to go into nursing or the area of care. So this would give them that upper hand, maybe when they were in high school and they were out getting, you know, part-time jobs, to help them to start from somewhere. And the video of this is adorable. We're unable to show videos on this platform, but it's so refreshing to see the young people, and complete strangers, by the way, like they eventually over time get to know about one another. There's a similar thing that is done with younger children in disadvantaged areas, urban areas, where there's a big brother or big sister scheme, where generally university students or high school students are paired with younger kids to spend some hours if they don't have like that, if they're not coming from a traditional, or if they're coming from maybe an abusive family background. And again, all of this still requires training, but as I said, it's not the primary care providers, but they're there to socialize and for moral support. And that would be the example, I'll just go back, for personal social services, because that is what is being provided at the end of the day. The third one is for the local development of disadvantaged areas. Now, in the Czech Republic, there is an area called Brno. I think that's how you pronounce it, but it's called the Brno Bronx. And things have changed for this social enterprise when I went back to check up on them. They also had a bar section. So it's a recording studio called Amaro Records. And the idea is that they run as like your regular commercial studio at the same time. They're running two things side by side. So they have the commercial space where they charge regular prices for those who can. But then what they promote it as is that essentially when someone who's a commercial buyer pays to rent the space and do recording, or rent the space for a meeting or gathering, part of the profits would then go into what is required for, let's say, someone who without those means to go and record music, or to use the space for their artistic and creative purposes. So essentially what they're doing is they're taking the profit and they're putting it back so that people with who are not as financially fortunate can also explore their talents and share their talents. And what they do is that the reason why it's important that it's in the Brno Bronx area is because it's right on the cusp of where the upper society live, and what they, I mean, the Bronx in New York is sort of considered a less affluent area of New York. So it's right on the border of those two regions of the city. And what it does, it attracts people from both ends of the city to come, and it almost serves as like a hub, so that people are not only meeting these, you know, generally they come from different cultures, different countries, and they share different kinds of music. And what could happen is then they can have a fusion and a mix, and they can basically become more aware of each other's cultures and share things and maybe fuse them into one. Another thing I enjoyed about this social enterprise is that you can work there as well. So you can either work as a bartender, or you can work as you know, a sound engineer. You can even help with the cleaning. But basically what happens is the time that you dedicate can then be converted into making use of the space. So let's say you're a musician, perhaps you are an immigrant and you had to leave your house and your family behind, and you're there, but you have this amazing creative talent and you want to share it, and you want to make an album, you want to make a video. You can then convert your work hours as currency, and you can basically work your way into getting a music video or an album. So I thought that was quite a groundbreaking way of doing things. And last but not least, we've got the other section now. I came across two brands, and Sherifa actually pointed out the Okis coffee eyewear to me, which I thought she was joking. But apparently, this company found a way to convert discarded coffee granules. So imagine your regular coffee shop, and the granules that they get rid of is basically turned into this very hard, durable, hydrophobic, which means it repels water, so it's water resistant. It doesn't break because there's a metal skeleton on the inside of it, but you get these very stylish and yet biodegradable to a certain extent glasses, and they do regular glasses and they also do sunglasses. But the idea is that they've reduced so much plastic waste. And the idea is that, you know, they don't break, but you can get them fixed, which also, you know, Michalis talked about people generally tend to discard things once they're broken, but these are very much sustainable in that sense because you can repair them. So I thought that was an amazing breakthrough. I've often found many glasses or sunglasses in my grandparents' house, in my house, and they're just sitting there. And I know that there was a similar social enterprise that actually took on old frames and then basically donated them to families who maybe could not afford to get glasses themselves. So, you know, there are many different things you can do, and all it takes is one simple item, and, you know, the opportunities on what you can do with that as a social enterprise is endless. The one on the left, the Due di Latte, is an Italian company in Tuscany. It's actually one woman, and back in the, I don't want to misquote anything, but I believe it was in the 1930s, someone discovered that they can use milk to make string, to make threads, natural threads. And with that string, I mean, Michalis and Yannis would be more better to explain the process of this, but from what I've read, there's something that they add into the milk, and then it turns it into this stringy form. And apparently it's really soft, it's very durable, and again, it sort of eliminates the use of polyester, which is nylon, and apparently it's really good on the skin, and it actually helps the skin, believe it or not. It could be just marketing, but I've never come across it. It's the first time I'm seeing it. One of the questions that does occur to me, though, is this can't, you know, this is not a vegan product in any way. And it just made me think that, you know, there are certain questions that I would ask this person just to find out more. I was not able to come across it any other place other than in this blog, and as well as their Facebook page. But it's also, I put it here as an example just to show that, you know, you can come up with an idea and then there's always that room for improvement, and you can always ask questions and push it that little bit further and maybe come up with an alternative. Now, these are the examples, or some examples, I should say, within the European Union. But if you were to look at the wider scale, the wider geography all around the world, you can find amazing examples from the Middle East, Africa, America, all around. There are amazing social enterprises, and what is important is that what they do is they take on the resources that they have within their local context. It's not, oh, I have this idea, I'm going to make this happen, but I need to get this first from the Philippines, and I need to get this all the way from Mexico. No, the idea is that you're using and making use of your resources and the brain power and the labor that you have locally. It needs to apply to the here and now, because that is where you become the expert. And the idea is, which is why social entrepreneurship is something that is so, it's easily accommodated into any sector or any skill, any labor, and any person, because everyone has a unique set of skills and everyone has a very unique way of thinking. So the question is now, what is your unique thinking strategy? What are your skills? What makes you tick? Where is your passion? If we think back to what Yanis was talking about, you know, when are those moments where you think, oh, this is when like my brain really gets going and my adrenaline starts going and I really want to do something in this field or in that way. So what we have up again for you is the field of work for social enterprises. We've got your work integration, and I'm going to just keep this up here. And I really want you to think and to look at all of these definitions and to think which one speaks to you. We have the personal social services, thinking back to the elderly care or working with children, or perhaps it's something beyond that. Perhaps it's support for a different group of within the community who maybe needs support or needs extra help in a way that maybe you've seen it before, you've experienced it before, and you've said, oh, actually, you know, a social enterprise where we can help X group of people in this way may actually be good. Who knows? So get thinking, get going. Local development of disadvantaged areas. We're looking at remote rural areas. Perhaps there isn't a lot of government support or government funds that are going into that area. It may be overlooked by the government. What sort of an enterprise could be designed where it's going to make it thrive a bit more just because of the social enterprise? And don't think that you're going to, like, again, you don't have to think big about this. It could be a small, simple change. One of the social enterprises I came across was, it's based on you buy one and then one of those items of the same is donated to a disadvantaged child. And it was rain boots. So rain boots in Cyprus may not be that big of a thing, but when you think about children who live in areas where rainfall is a huge issue and coming and going to school on foot is part of their reality, then a pair of sturdy rain boots can go a long way to improve the life quality of that child. So it's just a simple rain boot, you might be saying, but the changes and the number of kids who get to wear those boots is, you know, it sort of makes it takes on a whole different perspective and scale in that sense. And then we're looking at recycling environmental, we're looking at recycling resources. You know, the saying goes, someone's trash is another one's treasure. So that sort of mentality, keeping the resources within the loop, or taking what someone else has discarded and maybe transforming that into something that then becomes useful to someone else. So with that, we're going to talk a little bit about why we're pushing these work fields or fields of work to you. And if you remember from the first presentation and from your invitations, we mentioned something about group work on the 23rd of May. Now, the idea behind that is that tomorrow we're going to see what the business model for a social enterprise looks like. So this is going to take an idea for a social enterprise. Again, it could be an original idea that you've had. It could be an idea that maybe one of your group members will be presenting, or maybe you'll discuss it for a minute and you'll come up with a new social enterprise idea, or maybe something has inspired you from the examples that you've seen here. But the idea is that we take something that's an idea, and then you will go off into groups to work with your mentors. You will arrange the time and the platform on which you will be doing that, and then take the idea and turn it into a business model. And we're going to learn more about what that business model is going to look like tomorrow. We're going to give you an example, a tried and a thriving example based on Tiganokonisi, which was mentioned today, but you will find out more about that tomorrow. So what we want to do is, keeping in mind these field of work areas, if you could write into the chat, not the chat, the question section. And oh, is my camera okay now, Dimitra?
Your camera is a bit blurry all the time, but it's
is it the heat maybe?
Probably it's the Wi-Fi connection, but we can hear you very well, and
that's okay. You don't need to see me.
You can hear me very well. It is on now, though. I wouldn't want to switch it off just to confuse you again.
It's okay. Switch it on and off. I'm on a roll here. I'm just looking straight into it. It's okay. But basically what we want you to do now, participants, and if anyone was sleeping now, we're going to see if they're awake. If this is basically going to give you that practice. It's going to give you that practical experience of taking something from an idea into a more manageable set of tasks. It's going to get you thinking more in compartmentalized ways in what needs to be done to get a social enterprise up and going. What resources am I going to need? Who are my stakeholders? Who's my target audience? You know, what are the materials I'm going to be needing? Who may be able to help me out at the initial stage, or once I have it up and running? You know, who am I going to be doing business with? Who am I going to be working with? How am I getting that funding to start everything to go? These sort of questions, and this is what, after the workshops have concluded, this is the one piece of practical information, practical experience that you're going to need to then take any idea that you may have and put it into practice and initiate action. So it is a very, very valuable exercise, and I do urge all of you to take part in this. However, if you don't, that's also fine. I would not pass on this chance. I would say that if you've been here with us for 2.5 hours and you've listened to this, it means, you know, that something is speaking to you regarding social entrepreneurship. And it would be amazing if you could just write in the question section which one of these work fields that you would perhaps see yourself working in the context of social entrepreneurship. Maybe tomorrow, maybe in the future. Is it work integration, personal social services, local development of disadvantaged areas, or other? If you do have your own original idea, please also make a note of that and write to us. If you cannot decide now, I encourage you to write it now, because we're going to start into the planning and grouping and doing everything. But if you do happen to have a change in heart and you want to join us and you want to get to know some of the participants who are here sharing this experience with you, and you might want to work with a mentor, then you can always email us on gosocialcy@gmail.com, and that would be the email address that you've been receiving all the invitations from. So we will be looking forward to your comments and your areas of interest, and looking forward to the ideas Just flowing and taking us into the future. Excellent. So that concludes.
We have some answers coming, so maybe we should give time to people to respond. We have local development a couple of times. We have the other sector ones, and I think people should keep on writing their answers and their preference.
Excellent. Okay, so we'll give that. Should we give that a couple of minutes?
Yes, we should. I think because people are still writing in their answers to the questions tab.
Excellent. Which is a good reminder, Dimitra. Thank you. Also, any questions that you have? We're about to start concluding day one. It went by so fast.
Indeed.
What is it? Time flies when you're having fun. Time flies when you're learning. It's been 2.5 hours. I didn't even notice. The sun has completely changed direction now. But remember also your questions, friends. If you have questions, then keep them coming. We're gonna try and tackle all of them because we do have some time. We actually have some time to go over them. How are the answers coming in, Dimitra?
Well, I don't have any new answers, so maybe we should continue to the Q&A, and people, if people want to write, of course, at a later stage, if they decide to choose a field of work, the tab will be open and we'll be able to see their answers.
Okay, excellent. So people, if you still haven't decided, but you want to let us know, keep that coming. If you have questions based on some of the answers that are given, please go ahead and ask those as well. We will try and keep on time, but let's see how it goes. So can we have the panelists up? Let's get our experts back out here. Yannis, Michalis, did you miss us?
No, I've been following every word you said.
Brilliant. Okay, Dimitra, if you want to progress with the questions, and if anyone feels like they'd like to answer from our panel, please do start off, and I guess we can, if there's more than one people, then we can take turns in answering.
Of course. We have 5 interesting questions that I would like to share with you. The first one is that, would you say that due to the current economic state, global entrepreneurship would be an alternative way to traditional work manner? I guess it's referring to the economic state that maybe the pandemic has caused, or in general.
Yes. Yes, I could say a few words on this. It's evident, and it's not due to the pandemic, that generally the people turn back and have a better understanding that it's critical for the enterprises to be more social oriented. So you can see that now most of the big companies are introducing the corporate social, how do you say, the CSR, corporate social responsibility. So you see that even the existing companies, the big companies, they are trying to show that they are socially sensitive. Just imagine how much more the people would react positively in a social enterprise per se. So the European Union exactly has rendered the social enterprises as the third pillar of economic growth. So you are absolutely right that this is the right time to proceed with such initiatives.
Well,
Yannis, would you like to add anything to that?
Well, it's a very easy question, but the answer is difficult. The reason is that the world has developed in a way in which the multinational companies and the large companies have created an environment where they keep key knowledge to themselves. So when they employ younger people who are being trained in a way to serve them, this is, I am confused myself with this situation, because I have been observing changes in the way we've been approaching the training and employment of people. And if you look at the curricula of universities on business studies and other studies in developed countries, they're actually training people to work for multinationals. There is no such course anywhere in training people how to work for themselves or for small companies. And this change, this situation has been, in my opinion, worsening over the years. So if you look at the quality of graduates from universities and higher education these days, they know much less than what we have learned, the old generation like myself, at the time when we are at university. I remember discussing it with Mihalis a few weeks ago, that when I graduated from chemical engineering and food engineering, I could actually sit down and design a factory. Now, if you get a graduate from the same universities, but of the present time, what can they do? They will hardly be able to change a chip on a card that comes in a piece of machinery. It can be diagnosed from thousands of miles away. Somebody else who has the knowledge and technology can find the problem in your machine and send you through a courier a replacement chip or a card. And all you have to do is unscrew and the old one, put in the new one, and that's it. Is that engineering? Is that creativity? So somehow, I repeat, I am confused with this issue, and it could take quite a long to discuss it with our friends on both sides of the community in Cyprus, because we are actually victims. We are victims of the fact that we have been lagging in following what the others were actually cooking up for us. We found ourselves now in a trap, and we are talking about social entrepreneurship, things like that. But at what level? At what level? Cookery and embroidery and fixing furniture? Is that the technology we are capable of? We are capable of far more, far more. But somehow, I don't know, we are not prepared to go for it. I don't know if I've confused the issue more, but these are personal feelings, strong feelings, that do not allow me to take a clear position on the question. The question is quite valid. What is the answer?
Thank you, Yanis.
I can sound perplexed.
We had this discussion with Yanis before, and he's right. Actually, we were comparing our notes, and we saw exactly that. At Yanis, when he came back, he went and he actually designed a new factory. When I came back, I couldn't do that. And when the new chemical engineers came to Cyprus a few years ago, and we were discussing this, they wouldn't even think of designing a new. So this is what Yanis is saying. Actually, we can take it to the question raised, is that we have to, it's something that we have to try and create our own enterprises. And this is very important for Cyprus as a country, as a free place for people to do things. So Yanis is saying that instead of just sitting around in a queue for the multinational companies to choose us and actually to brainwash up to a point that you only can do this and this and this. Okay, you can do your own social enterprise in a way that you are envisaging things that it has a very important impact in the society, and that you get your salary without having to step on others.
I remember, Jan, many years ago when we started the scheme on industrial incubators. I was professing that there is no definition for high technology. There is no such thing as high and tall and fat and thin technology. If you take an air gun to an Amazon Indian who is blowing a dart from his little blowpipe, to him the air gun is high technology. But if you take an air gun to anybody in US, to us, we say, what is this? What is this? So if we want to show initiative, we have to look at things which, as you said to yourself, are around us, raw materials that are around us. For example, one thing that we discussed many times with Mihalis and other friends. You know chewing gum, pizza paphidik, chewing gum, right? It doesn't exist as a registered product in the form of the traditional chewing gums, that have the form of a pill, which you can store them. You can store them without melting, without sticking in your hands. This product has not been developed. Somebody can develop this and make a lot of money. You can have the whole society chewing natural chewing gum, okay,
without preservatives, without
nothing,
and without a lot of bad haircuts.
Yeah,
actually,
you need to think.
Yannis has all his teeth because for many years he is chewing this chewing gum. I mean, I want to make a research over you, Yanni.
By doctor's order. A doctor told me, try and keep your head muscles strong.
Okay.
And
you make a good point, Yannis. I'm sure we could, like, we've only asked one question up until now. I'm sure we can talk for hours on end, but we have 4 more questions to go through.
Please.
And we'll get to the next question. Dimitra?
Sure.
Yes.
Sure.
So the next question is, how do you think the pandemic has affected social enterprises in Cyprus? And what can social enterprises do in the future to be sustainable during a pandemic this size?
Yannis, do you want me to say a few things? Yes.
Please, because I don't have any ideas.
No. Because I experienced this due to the pandemic, and actually we are facing the need for social enterprises, because in those pandemics, generally you strike the society, you create forces to the society, and this is something that makes the gaps and the problems of the society more obvious to the people. So I will give you an example. Until now, there was no need for good indoor air quality. Okay, just give me one moment just to minimize the, okay. Now we don't hear double the, so, and so we faced the thing that during the pandemic, the indoor air quality was, we found out that was very low in all the premises of South Cyprus that we have researched. So we saw that we could have a social enterprise or an enterprise, depends from what you want, to go around, check, make a risk analysis of each indoor air environment, and create sensors, or put sensors so to monitor and remotely diagnose the problems when we have the problems on the air, indoor air quality, when we have such problems like the one with the virus. So if I may say that since the virus created those, made the gaps obvious to the society, each one of those obvious gaps is a niche market, an opportunity for social enterprises. I couldn't go to see my mother. She's 91 years old. Okay, can I make a product that would actually answer to this problem? I mean, she was calling me and I only had one telephone call to give to SMS. And if I had gone with this one SMS, I couldn't go second time because she fell. Okay, so those problems that were created. So I didn't want to go to the market. My mother couldn't go to the market. So I needed somebody to go shop for me and bring it home. This is a niche market. This is a new product. So it would be better to be a social enterprise-oriented project. We also saw that one of the big things that I saw is that now, because they couldn't sell in the markets, the producers of the grapes, of the fruits, generally, okay, I'm just eating a mespilo. So because they couldn't bring them in the open markets, they didn't know what to do with them. They were independent producers that they don't want to sell to the supermarkets, and they sell through the open markets. I went to them and I told them, for God's sake, why don't you give them to the supermarket? And they told me, how much did you pay for this mespilo? I told them I paid €3 per kilo. Wow, they said, I'm selling to them with 40 cents. So the producer takes 40 cents, the supermarket takes €3. And this is the situation. And they said, can you find us a way to take this mespilo with, how do you call it in Turkish? Aycan, it's.
I can't see it. Yeni Dünya. Yeni Dünya.
Okay.
In English, that would be a loquat.
Okay, but it's a big one. Okay,
it's a very big one.
Nevertheless, I'm just saying that if we could find a way to bring the product from the producer with a car to the consumer, bypassing the supermarkets, we could make a huge social impact. We did this. It's called Green Cluster, and it's working. So we need to open it up to all the island. So you see how many, until now it wasn't necessity. It wasn't a necessity. However, now with this coronavirus, it became a necessity because there is no other way for the producers to sell in the right price.
Not only that, Michalis, but I think it's also good to have, it would have been good to have people to have more points of distribution of goods rather than everyone going into one enclosed area to do that. So smaller, more local, but evidently more effective in a pandemic. Yanis, would you like to add anything to this question before we move on to the next one?
Not really. The only thing I can say is that it creates another opportunity for people to learn how to drive delivery bikes.
Absolutely, a lot of delivery opportunities came up, and especially online delivery as well. And no one could even imagine that the technology of that existed to this extent in the north as well. And they were like, "Wow, people were delivering everything all of a sudden. Why do we have so many cars per family?" I like also, Michalis, how you're just giving out the ideas out there for free. So if there's anyone out there who hasn't yet shown interest in wanting to join the business model canvas devising and brainstorming session, my God, Michalis and Yanis have ideas out there for you. also to bear in mind that even if you're not necessarily coming up with an idea yourself, it would be, I think, much appreciated if you were there to also give your own unique perspective. I know some of you were maybe, you're joining in from different parts of the island. You may be, some of my friends were living alone, like they weren't with family. I, for example, had to move back in with my family because they were both of my parents were high risk, and my grandmother was also 94, Mihaly. So I was the only point of contact with the outside world. But my other grandmother was stuck in the village on her own. So a lot of you have had this very unique lockdown experience. It may be given your age, your status, your family relationships, or your where you were located on the island. Maybe you were in a more rural area. You can contribute with this experience as well. So don't just think it as, oh, it's a business model experience, but you are unaware of the contribution you can give to an idea if you don't join in. So feel free to continue writing if you would like to join in. And maybe we should have a new category as well. Maybe we could say COVID-19 lockdown, or crisis, the crisis category. Like what brilliant ideas could you come up with for a crisis? It's not over yet, people. We're still going through it. So it's good to maybe keep this as an example as well. Dimitra, could we have our next question? We've got 4 minutes left. We'll see how many we can go through in that time.
Yes, I have 2 more interesting questions. Maybe we have time to do that. I have one long one, but maybe we should answer that at a later stage in writing. So here's the next question. Can an existing enterprise switch to social?
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Short and sweet. Yeah.
Actually, eventually, I should take our company have the more the society is pushing towards the CSR, corporate social responsibility, the more many startups or many new companies would think of going towards this end. So I believe that the moment that we will have the law of European Union set up to be in favor of social enterprises, we will see many marginal companies that they have marginal profit, to find a way to boost their products and their efforts through the social enterprise scheme. So I believe that eventually, yes, many companies, especially in Cyprus and in countries like the ones that Yannis showed, that they were not multinational, but family companies or small companies, or because Yannis said in Greece it was 45% of the population has its own company, okay? So those people would be very easy to divert their effort, or the one that the carpenters did, they kept their own company running, and they have made a spin-off which is social enterprise. So startup or spin-off, it's very easy to be done through the current companies. But if you have a marginal profit company, it would be very easy to go through this this approach. Yes, Yannis.
I don't have anything to add. Actually, you're right. Yes, they can, provided there is a right legal framework.
Exactly. Okay.
So hopefully we can then push more enterprises to do a spin-off into social entrepreneurship, given that they have the means and the legal framework. Dimitra, shall we move on to
before
yes.
you proceed, just one question, Rasmus. From this sketch that there were all the different ways that we can handle waste in inverted comma. You saw how many spin-offs from existing companies. Each company who has waste, they can create a social company operating or symbiotically working and cooperating with other companies. I believe that if those things that are left to their own way of going out front, if we have penalties from European Union, or if we have funds from European Union, you will see all the people turning into spin-offs of social enterprise nature.
That actually connects with our next question, and I think it should be our final question. Do all enterprises have a circular economy? I guess the idea is that can all companies implement circular economy, or does it depend on the type of enterprise?
Well,
Since
perhaps, sorry.
Yannis, would you like to take this one?
Yes, I could contribute to this. When Michalis showed the circular economy circles, there is one thing that should have been mentioned, is that there is a lot of technology turning something which anyone believes it's waste. First of all, not to think of it as a waste, but as a less desirable product, or a product that I cannot handle, but somebody else can handle. The other thing that should have been said is that in many situations, we have problems, waste problems, that are presenting themselves in units of hundreds and thousands of tons. We cannot suggest solutions which talk about grams and kilograms. Yes, they are desirable to develop the idea, but then they need mass application to make an impact. And this takes time. There is a lot of opportunity in handling waste, but we have to understand why and where it is created. I mean, why are clothes wasted? They are wasted mostly because we change our idea about fashion. We want to wear new things every year. We change the color without reason. We change the size and the length of the skirt from mini to maxi without any actual practical reason. And that creates...
There are many practical reasons.
Yes, for you there are practical reasons. Anyway, I don't want to monopolize. We can discuss this again. It's a big subject. Why is waste created in the first place? So I'll leave it to Michalis to add on his own contribution.
Yes, just one something to add on Yannis' issue and not on the skirt issue. The Green Deal, please. It's very important for all the people that are listening to us to have a look at the last effort of European Union that is called the Green Deal. The Green Deal brings all the environmental acquis of European Union under one roof, one perspective, one plan, one framework. So for the first time, they brought everything, from changes in the climate change to whatever you can imagine, and they put them in one understandable and very structured way of thinking, and it's called Green Deal. Now, the main pillar of Green Deal is the circular economy. So all the new laws, all the new funding, all the new efforts of European Union will be to create a circular market in such a way that even they are trying for the zero waste. This is a huge issue. We may finalize, we may come there in 30 years, in 20 years. However, the target is already being set. And this is the important issue that we should take into consideration. And I must admit that the people that will deal with the Green Deal and the circular economy and all this will be the first to pave the road. Okay, so yes, it will be hard for the first to pave the road. However, I'm sure that they will be the first to get the benefits of this new effort. So we know for sure, and we are actually drafting, our company is drafting the national scheme for circular economy for South Cyprus. So I'm telling you that it's obligation. So in 2 years max, all the legislation, all the funding processes, everything will be set in order to push towards the social enterprises and the circular economy, which is very relevant and interconnected.
And I guess that also means that there's going to be a lot of support that's also going to be coming in for the starting up of social enterprises, one of which, but not restricted to, would be startup seed funds that are going to be popping up. So I think if you stick around on the 23rd and tomorrow as well as the 27th, and you get that practical experience of going through the idea to, let's say, business plan or business model of a social enterprise, you would have already had an upper hand in that. And if not for yourself, then you may have had that, you may be holding on to that knowledge for someone else to benefit someone else. So please do let us know if you wish to join us for the business model, if you want that practical experience to discuss things. And if anything, it's a bit of socializing with people who you're sharing this interest of a new way of doing entrepreneurship, a new way of doing business. If anything that we've experienced is that, if anything that we've learned during this lockdown is that the way things are going and the majority of the way businesses are running, it's not making us go in the right direction, be it with the pollution. And I'm sure everyone or most of the people here has clicked onto that YouTube video of zero waste. I've gone zero waste for a month. This is how I make my zero waste toothpaste. I'm sure someone's come across that video. And if you have, then this is the way of knowing how to go about and doing that, and doing it in a way that's going to be sustainable. So before we say goodbye,
before you make the rounding, the last phase, please
yes.
allow me to tell something to our attendants. At this moment, European Union will not accept any proposal for funding. The banks will accept no proposal for funding. The same goes for all the people that are dealing with those issues if you don't have a business plan. So it's not the idea. If you cannot put the idea into perspective in order for them to understand if it has a chance of surviving, and this is the business plan, then you have no chance, not even think of the idea. Don't even think of the idea if you are not able to make a structured business plan that it's very specific, and it's something that they all worked from here to Casablanca will understand. It's a typical thing that you need it for everything.
And I like how we've come all the way back to what Yannis said at the very beginning of, you know, ideas galore. A lot of people complain about there not being any funding, but if you do have a good solid plan and a good idea and it's well thought out, then you will always find people to support you in that. And it doesn't have to be the bank, and it doesn't have to be governments if it's good enough to get there. So please let us help you in that process of showing you how it could get to that point. So I am going to start wrapping up. We're 8 minutes over time, but I guess we managed to answer most of the questions. Is there anything that you would like to add to the concluding remarks before I go ahead and give a last minute task to people?
Thank you, Jan. Okay. You're doing fine. You are doing fine.
Thank you.
You're all doing great. And you're doing great, participants. We've got 26 people still with us, so I call that a success any day, especially online. So the last thing we would want for you to do is, you've just spent about 3 hours listening to us talking about social entrepreneurship. Could you please, within 30 seconds, just write one word that you can think about when it comes to, that comes to your mind when we say social entrepreneurship? It could be an emotion, it could be one of the elements or the characteristics that we mentioned, it could be one of the challenges of a social entrepreneur. Whatever it is, you have let's make this interesting. I give you 10 seconds to write the first thing that comes to your mind about social entrepreneurship into the questions text box on the side. The idea is that we're going to take these words and then create a word cloud out of them. And then we will get to share that with you, and you will have a part of you'll have your contribution in a word cloud, and it's going to be on Facebook and our website, and we'll share it, and you would have been contributing to that. So let's get those words coming in. What comes to mind when we say social entrepreneurship? Dimitra, how's it going over there?
It's going really well. We have answers
Excellent.
coming in. People are getting creative.
We're looking for around 20, 21 words in total. Should we contribute as well? Should we write something?
Yes, we should. Our experts should as well, if they'd like.
Oh no, I have 10 seconds. I'm panicking.
Okay, it seems that we have a lot of answers, but if I have around 10, 12 answers, there's room for more.
There's always room for more people, and in my enthusiasm, I broke the I think I broke the S key of my keyboard. Oh no. But I will repair it, Michalis. I promise I will not go out and buy a new. My headphones are falling apart and I refuse to get rid of them, even though it makes some people very unhappy to see my headphones in this situation. Are we doing good for words? As you're still coming up with words, I'm just going to say that Dimitra will either give the instructions on how to sign into Heart to Freedom. Oh, isn't that a good one? You could have written it down into the chat, but I guess now everyone gets to see. And it's recorded. We have it on recording. Hopefully that's going to make it into a very good video one day, live footage. So before we finish up with the word cloud, I was just saying that for tomorrow's workshop, Dimitra is going to enlighten us on how you'll be able to gain access to this platform again. Dimitra, do you have any updates on that front?
Yes, of course. You can either use the link we've shared with you today, but you're going to get 1 hour prior to the workshop, you're going to get an email reminding you that we have the second day of our workshop, on which we're really excited about. And we hope to see you again tomorrow. Use the same link or use a new link that it will be sent to you from the system itself.
And a little trick that I do to guarantee that I'm on time is to set an alarm on my phone 5 minutes prior or 3 minutes prior. I just give myself a little room for anything that could go wrong. Set an alarm on your phone and make sure you're with us at 3 o'clock so we don't have to keep you for an extra 15 minutes. So do we have all the words in, Dimitra?
Yes, we do. We have a lot of words where we'll be really happy to share with you our word cloud tomorrow. Excellent.
So I thank all of the panelists for being with us today and for their wonderful presentations. I was about to say fanalists, but I guess I am a big fan of the panelists. So there we go, slip of the tongue. And I thank all the participants for being with us here today. Until tomorrow, rest well, take care, and let's get those ideas mulling for later. Take care, everyone, and we'll see you tomorrow. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Goodbye. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
significant.